Peru, South America, a country rich with natural treasures. Tucked away in the country's southeast lies Manu National Park. It's considered one of the most biodiverse areas in the world.
It's like the world's super treasure chest, and that, of course, is a huge motivation to protect this park.
But even this largely inaccessible region is at risk. Can Manu be protected from dangers like logging? Or the lust for gold? It's morning in southeastern Peru, beyond the Andes, in the Amazonian lowlands. During the dry season, macaws and smaller parrots from the area gather on these clay banks. They come in search of salts and minerals, which are scarce in the rainforest. Spectacles like these indicate where nature is still intact. But conservation is about so much more than exotic beauty. Worldwide, intact ecosystems are vital for the survival of humankind. A team from Frankfurt's Zoological Society is visiting the Manu National Park. The Nature Conservation Organization operates across the globe and has a major program in Peru. Dr. Christoph Schenk once studied giant otters here. Today, he heads the organization, but over the past 30 years, he's always found time to come back.
I'm here to gauge the state the park is in and the size of the threat to the surrounding area. And of course, I want to see how the otters are doing.
The men travel by boat. There aren't any roads. They keep a sharp lookout for fallen trees or any other obstacles. They want to make sure to avoid any accidents, not least because the waters are teeming with caimans and piranhas. They cover hundreds of kilometers this way and keep making astonishing encounters along the way. A tapir. This prehistoric-looking creature is rarely spotted around here. South America is rich in pristine habitats, and Peru is particularly diverse. The Manu National Park in the southeast of the country covers a good 17,000 square kilometers. It stretches from the eastern foothills of the Andes to the Amazonian lowlands. That's an altitude difference of 4,000 meters. Running through the heart of the region is the river which gave it its name, the Manu River. The abundance of different habitats this creates is one of the reasons Peru boasts such an enormous biodiversity. In fact, the Manu National Park is home to the greatest variety of animal and plant species known to science. 1,030 different species of birds inhabit Manu, for example. That makes up 10% of all the bird species on Earth. 228 different mammals have been identified here, roughly 4% of all mammals worldwide. The park is also home to a number of different invertebrates, amphibians, and reptiles. 1 hectare of rainforest here contains more than 200 different types of trees and other plants. Some of them can reach astounding heights. The jaguar is the largest hunter in the rainforest, while huge black caimans rule the lakes and rivers. Amongst other things, they hunt capybaras, the world's biggest rodents. But even this paradise is under attack. Nearby, the rainforest is being felled, legally and illegally, for roads, construction sites, or timber. When the forest disappears, so does its biodiversity. Rangers from Peru's specialized body for conservation have been working with environmentalists for years to stem this tide. In the Manu National Park, they've been successful for the most part, but elsewhere, profit interests mostly overturn their efforts. Once the forest has vanished, roads appear and pave the way for further destruction. Land that has been cleared will be turned into pastures for the meat industry. Here, the rich abundance of species is a bygone memory. Another threat to local biodiversity only becomes clear at a second glance: the farming of coca leaves. The eastern Andean slopes are where the bushes usually grow. Local inhabitants enjoy the stimulating effect of tea made from coca leaves, but it can also be used to produce cocaine.
Der legale und der illegale Anbau zu unterscheiden in Peru ist gar nicht so einfach.
In Peru, it's not that easy to distinguish between legal and illegal coca cultivation. It's not against the law to grow coca plants, but it is illegal to extract the alkaloid from the leaves to produce cocaine. Yields per hectare are high, so it's very hard to convince farmers to use it for other purposes or to grow something else.
Anderen Pflanze zu überzeugen.
It looks harmless, but the plant invites criminal activity. The drug mafia is ruthless and well organized. After all, it's not easy to get drugs out of the country by the ton.
Also wir sehen tatsächlich verstärkt
We've noticed increased aircraft movement in the area, and that points to the drug cartels. The coca mafia are creating illegal airfields, and obviously they prefer to do that somewhere remote. That's why large and isolated nature reserves are particularly at risk.
One of the illegal landing strips is located in the Manu region. The police blew up one courier aircraft, a dangerous operation. The cocaine mafia is known for being violent. So far, the authorities have been unable to stop the cartels. New illegal coca fields, new airways, and new airplanes keep appearing. Peru is moving up in the narcotics business.
In the past, Colombia played the leading role, but today Peru is one of the world's biggest suppliers of cocaine, especially to the Western world. That's why the business is growing to such huge dimensions here in the rainforest and playing a massive role in its destruction.
Up to now, cocaine production has mostly taken place in the area around the national park. The heart of the region is wild and almost inaccessible. It is still inhabited by indigenous peoples. The Ministry of Culture has established a checkpoint to protect them as far as possible. Christoph Schenk and his Peruvian colleague, Oscar Mujica Chacon, are taking the opportunity to assess the situation. A ministry employee tells them that, every now and then, indigenous residents appear on the opposite bank. Ministry employees stand back and observe, letting the natives decide for themselves whether they wish to make contact.
As far as we're concerned, they should live the way they want. We respect that and make sure that no one tries to establish contact with them. We try to shield them from any negative influences. We want them to preserve their culture, and we respect their territorial claims.
The fact that people here can still pursue their original way of life is another positive distinction of the region.
Some say that they live like people in the Stone Age, but that sounds so negative. It's true that they don't seem to be acquainted with metal, or don't produce it at least. They might have managed to get a machete or an axe somewhere, but for the most part, metal is foreign to them. And I think that that's actually quite a good thing, because these people are an integral part of the rainforest's ecosystem.
Christoph Schenk and his team are looking for giant otters. They're typical to the region. They live mainly in cut-off meanders, not on the Manu River itself. The team needs a portable dinghy in order to move around here. Ahead of them lies lush rainforest. Some of the jungle giants along the way are more than 50 meters high. In the undergrowth, tarantulas lie waiting for their prey. While capuchin monkeys are out and about in the trees. They're curious animals. Giant otters often colonize cut-off meanders, former bends that have become separated from the main river. 30 years ago, Christoph Schenk was first able to observe giant otters here for just 60 seconds. The encounter changed his whole life. The zoologist began to study the animals scientifically and wrote his doctoral thesis on them. So naturally, he's interested to see how they're faring.
Today, giant otters can only be found in the best rainforests of the Amazon, in the most pristine habitats. Giant otters live off the fish they catch along the riverbanks. That's where humans have the strongest impact. Overfishing, animal husbandry, illegal gold panning, and logging, they all take place along the riverbanks. So, finding giant otters anywhere is a sure sign of a very good region.
The remote wilderness of the Manu National Park is an important retreat for them. Yet the giant otter still remains one of the rarest predators in the world. When the first otters appear, they keep their distance. During his 3 years of field research, Christoph Schenk had to work hard to gather any knowledge of them.
It's amazing how little was known about the giant otter. After all, they're active during the day and live in groups.
At daybreak, the biologists are out in their dinghy again. This is a good time, because the otters rest at night and wake up hungry. Christoph Schenk began observing giant otters here. Today, his work is continued by Peruvian biologists. Giant otters have singular throat markings which enable each animal to be identified. Comparison with a datasheet reveals whether an otter has already been documented. This helps researchers collect a lot of useful information.
These individual throat markings have enabled us to trace the lives of a whole number of these animals. We've been able to watch them grow and then leave the group as young animals to find a new home and establish families of their own. Being able to do that is wonderful. It's the dream of every field biologist.
The giant otter can grow to a length of 2 meters. To meet their energy requirements, the animals need about 4 kilograms of fish a day. This means that the average family group will require about 30 kilograms every day. So the species can only exist in extremely productive habitats. Once, the giant otter was hunted almost to extinction for its fur. Worldwide, perhaps 5,000 of these creatures have survived. Black caimans exist in the same habitat, but they usually avoid the self-confident giant otters. Not far away, other hunters roam the rainforest. The Machigenga still hunt with traditional methods. And that is no easy task. From their perspective, life in the forest has many advantages.
In town, you have to pay for everything. But here we don't pay for anything. The forest provides us with all our food, or we grow it on our fields.
If they have no luck hunting, they collect plants, like the Brazil nut. The Machigenga live on the threshold between two worlds. They have long been using machetes and other tools. The core of their village community is the family unit, which the Machigenga often start while still teenagers. Ruben and his wife already have 6 children. Several generations live under one roof. While Ruben carves wooden hunting weapons, his wife Natalia makes necklaces and bracelets from plant seeds. With their homemade jewelry, they run a modest business, even though few travelers venture into this remote part of the world. Support programs are a further source of income.
With the money they're getting now, they're able to buy goods that they couldn't buy before, like outboard motors and other things. In the past, everyone had access to all the resources of the rainforest. Now it's possible to accumulate valuables. Society has changed completely.
Life for Ruben, Natalia, and their family has already undergone considerable change. They hunt monkeys and gather nuts in the forest, but they also run a small lodge in the jungle, together with several other families. Natalia takes care of the rooms. Out here, there are very few opportunities for earning money.
I want my children to study hard and achieve more than I have. I don't have a real profession. I want them to have a better life than mine.
It is a rapid development that other cultures needed centuries for. Here, though, the change from the traditional to a modern lifestyle sometimes takes place within one generation. And meeting growing demands means the forest also has to be utilized more intensely. A considerable distance downstream, the Manu River flows into the Madre de Dios. This is where the small town of Boca Manu is located. It has a boarding school run by the Frankfurt Zoological Society. Most of the indigenous pupils, who come from the surrounding area, could not travel back and forth in one day. The distances are too great and the routes too arduous. It's hoped more education will give the children better personal prospects. And indeed, so far there have been no teenage pregnancies. But no matter how warm and friendly the atmosphere might be, in this remote region, even with a good education, opportunities are limited. But there is one activity where riches beckon: the search for gold. The precious metal is found here in the sediment and rivers. Hundreds of contraptions like this one can be seen in rivers like the Madre de Dios and the Tambopata. A diesel pump sucks the sediment onto a large sieve. Gold prospecting puts a huge strain on the environment. That's why this method has been declared illegal. Large stones are extracted while gold particles are retained in a mat with a fine mesh. Although gold prospecting is banned, thousands of adventurers here do nothing else.
Unfortunately, jobs are scarce in this region, so we have to take certain risks. Gold panning hasn't yet been legalized, so we're caught between two chairs. There's no other way for us to earn money.
To bind the gold dust, Manuel and his friends use mercury, a highly toxic heavy metal which turns liquid at room temperature. It is not only the gold panners on the river who profit from this illegal practice. So do those behind the scenes. Local politicians like to turn a blind eye when it is worth their while. Through repeated decanting and panning, the metallic mixture is compacted. The surplus ends up in rivers, which will transport it thousands of kilometers. Amongst other things, mercury poisoning can cause nerve damage. Unborn babies can often sustain serious disabilities. Whole areas are contaminated. In the end, what is left is a small piece of metal, which because of the mercury, doesn't have its golden color yet. There is no indication of its toxic history.
Nothing here is contaminated. That's a lie. How many people have died because of mercury? There's no proof. They say everything here is contaminated, but that's not true. Mercury is heavy, and in water it sinks, so it's impossible for wildlife to be contaminated by it.
But mercury does poison, slowly. The nugget is heated up to separate the gold from the heavy metal. This releases toxic substances into the atmosphere. These are then spread the next time the rain falls. When the mercury is vaporized, the color of the gold can be seen for the first time.
Once it's been melted down, which often happens straight away, of course, it's no longer possible to tell whether the gold came from a legal mine or was panned illegally from river sediment.
Prospectors sell their gold in the nearby town of Puerto Maldonado in the Madre de Dios region. Dealers check to make sure it is really pure gold. They have no intention of paying for mercury residues, hence the fire test.
Here in Madre de Dios, illegal and legal gold are already mixed. And from here, there are direct transport routes to Europe, because customers in the Western world, and to an increasing extent these days, in Asia too, are of decisive importance. The thing is, no one investing in gold today is aware of or thinks for a second about the incredible environmental destruction caused here by gold mining, and how the people here will suffer long-term as a result.
The extent of the destruction is enormous. The water is polluted and the contaminated areas are uninhabitable. The Transoceanica, a highway running across South America from the Atlantic to the Pacific, made exploitation possible in the first place. Around 60,000 people work in southeastern Peru as illegal gold prospectors, and there is no end in sight to the boom.
Of course, it's understandable that every family would like to have a good source of income. But the tragedy with the search for gold is that the destruction is large-scale and, above all, long-term.
The jungles of Manu National Park in the Amazon lowlands are part of the largest tropical rainforest on Earth. This forest is not only of regional, but also of global importance to the climate. The consequences of climate breakdown are incalculable. The disappearance of endangered species like the giant otter might not affect us in Europe, but there are signs that systems are no longer functioning. Systems which work as a global network and on which we depend. For the air we breathe, for healthy food, for clean water. Conservation is no luxury. The basis of our very existence is at stake.